are listening to Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. I'm in Max. Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon. Why, hello, and welcome to Season 29, Episode 9 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
I'm Stork.
In this episode of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast, Ruth from England sends us 1D10 question table. A 1D10 question table.
Oh, and there's actually a table within the table, which is even cooler.
And
Yes.
there is a random question generator, which
It's totally cool.
we don't need email anymore.
Totally
we got that. Bill from Colorado writes in about note taking, and Josh in Orlando writes in again about paid GMs, because I guess sometimes we answer the question we think we hear, not the question they actually wrote in.
That happens.
I think we did that.
Yeah.
But first, if you'd like to email us, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. And if you'd like to watch the show live, you can go to happyjacks.org/live at 7:32 p.m. Pacific Standard Time now.
Didn't we vote to stop that? I just am so tired of it.
No, we didn't vote to stop that. No, we would like to. They've done polls, and they know that most people don't want to have to switch time back and forth. Because it actually has a life cost.
Yes.
What they actually did, I'm not kidding, is that they voted to look into it to see if it was worthy of having another vote. So they voted to make a committee, so I'm sure people are making money getting paid to think about it.
Yeah, well, you got to pay the, of course. All right. So, happyjacks.org/live, 7:30 p.m. on Fridays, Pacific Time.
And there it is.
Yeah.
And I need a D10 unless someone else wants to roll it.
There you go.
Okay.
Ready? Roll it.
6. Question number 6. No, mark it off.
Don't we have other stuff to... No, is that everything we have to do?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Question 6 is the 5d6 roll table to generate
it's
random questions.
You know what? Can I re-roll?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to re-roll. I want to save that one for later.
We don't want a TPK.
10. Objects in play. Oh, this is from Ruth in England. Thank you, Ruth in England, for sending us 10 questions.
Yeah.
And a table.
I don't know if we're going to get them all tonight.
No, we're not.
You have to read the intro first, though.
Oh, I will. Yeah.
Because that's
Hello, oh wonderful Jackers.
Hello.
I truly can't believe you're all still going with the podcast after all these years. Me
Thanks.
too, right? And we're old now.
We're really old.
We might be one of the oldest.
We are
that's
100%.
That's been
We're not
around.
the oldest.
We are very close
one
to
of.
being the oldest.
Okay, well, there's still guys are still hanging on.
Yeah. We're now one of the old guys hanging on, Stu.
That's true. I used to listen to you as a kid on my paper round. Stop it.
Thanks.
No.
Thanks. Okay, cool.
You're dating yourself because paper routes are
There
like
are
from the 1950s.
Well, they still exist. You can still subscribe to a paper, and someone brings it to your house.
Yeah.
But even when I was a kid, it went from. I remember when it used to be Kids on Bicycles, and that was like early 70s, and then it flipped, and it's
Adults in trucks.
dudes in pickup trucks.
Yeah.
Occasionally, because I get up at the ass crack of dark 30, occasionally I'll follow them down the road or whatever, and they're flying out of both sides of the windows. It's pretty funny.
I did that in college. My boyfriend had a paper route like that. We'd get up super early in the morning, ride around Riverside in the back of his pickup truck, throwing papers everywhere.
It's so funny.
Oh,
Anyway,
I never knew that. What a great story.
I came back to listen a while ago. Oh, thank you, and welcome back.
welcome back.
And figure with the amazing advice you've given me over the years, those many, many, many years, I could at least reply to your desperate plea for emails with a juicy list of topics.
So
Here
we're
goes.
old and desperate. I love this email.
We are old and desperate. Happy Jack's RPG Podcast, pursuing the RPG hobby with desperation and age.
Thank you.
That should be our new.
Old age and treachery will make up for youth and enthusiasm every time.
Anytime.
Here goes. Feel free to pick or choose from our list, or just roll a d10, which is what we did twice. Because the table, I want to save that.
Yeah.
Because some of those may not play as well as I think they will. All right. 10. Objects in play. I'm endlessly interested in games which bring objects in as part of their play to good effect. the Jenga tower in Dread. Getting steadily more wobbly as the game goes on and the tension builds. Crossing it off so I can do it next week. How character gen in Swords Without Master begins with players all bringing something, a painting, a song, an object, to the table, which will serve as inspiration for their character, and the candles and 10 candles, really visually representing the situation. I know that between you've used some fantastic props in your games. I still think about those tickets to hell you handed out in the Dead Presidents game. But are there any that spring to mind as having really made the game pop just by being included? Which examples are you most proud of? Do you always look for opportunities to use props, or is it more of a bonus if you think of it?
Well, I actually learned my love of props from you. Because you and your newspapers, and I remember the Ghostbusters game is when you really exposed us all to props. Because you had a newspaper, you had some...
Oh, even your character sheets.
Yeah,
if I
that's
recall
right.
correctly, your character sheets were built as if they were police records, because I gave everyone a file folder, and it had like your police record with a mug shot, and it had like all the information, and I took all of the character information and put it in as if it was items in a police rap sheet.
Because back when we were playing, we would just sort of like make a map, that week in math class when we were supposed to be paying attention, and then play it on the weekend. But it was like, it wasn't really, we didn't go the extra mile to make it look like I think maybe once or twice somebody did. But we never went that, because most of the time the games were just sort of made up as we went along, and nobody really had a whole plan going on. But I kind of picked it up from you, where you really got into some of the props. At one point you found a map of the LA subway system.
Right. That was the Ghostbusters game.
That was the Ghostbusters game, right. So I've taken some of that and put that into some of my games as well, and I have a lot of fun with it. And again, I think back in the early days of the show, when we first started up, there was an H.P. Lovecraft website that you could download telegrams and tickets.
You could print
match
stuff.
packs.
Yeah, you like matchboxes.
Yeah.
And you could cut in there. You could print it on a cardstock and cut them out, and it would tell you where to glue to put them all together.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, it was fucking awesome. It might
old-
still be there.
They
I don't
had
know.
old photographs as well. They had, and so it was everything you needed to make like a period campaign. And I remember combing through that, thinking, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen."
And they're also there's 2 or 3 of them now, I think. But they're a telegram maker.
Yeah.
That would looked like a Western Union telegram. It was
That's
awesome.
It was totally cool, and then you could hand those, and it was specifically designed, I think, around 1 or 2 Call of Cthulhu campaigns that these props were made for, because they had like train tickets.
Oh, yeah.
It was really cool, and that made me go, there's something here.
Because I only own 1 or 2 like actual official Call of Cthulhu adventures, and one of them is Masks of Nyarlathotep. And in the back of that book, probably 10 or 12 pages in the back is all props. Mm-hmm. You can go through, photocopy them onto cardstock to make the little matchbook, and there's like business cards and like cutouts from newspaper articles and all kinds of shit in there.
It's totally cool if you're playing like a gumshoe game.
Absolutely.
And somebody hands you their card, and you actually hand the card to the players, and oh my God, I mean, that's not only does it help with players remembering what's going on, but it's a cool moment of interactivity with all the players. I dig it. I totally dig it.
Yeah.
And I've done it in some of the con games we did. I did I had a freak show where Grendel gets brought up in Boston, and it's the troll.
Right.
Anyway, but the long story short, I had a sort of basically a substitution message. I used runic lettering, and then had a key for it, and so I dropped that on the table as they were searching the apartment. And so that one of the people, I think it might have been Kurt, actually did the little substitution puzzle and deciphered it, and they all got into it. And then in my fairy game, I actually had a whole puzzle that I made of these doors. There was a set of broken doors on the ground, and a blank wall on the castle. But there were 2 sets of doors, and they had to figure out which door to assemble to stick on the castle. And I literally had an envelope that I ended up poured it out, and they all dove on the thing. Everybody's playing, putting the
so
doors
like the doors
together.
are like broken in different pieces. You have to figure out which pieces. Okay.
And
That's cool.
suddenly all of these, too cool for school adults were all diving in and building a puzzle, and they dug it. And so ever since then, I've always tried to include some cool prop in my game.
I just thought of it. I thought of a prop, and I have to figure out where to use it. I have a sublimation printing setup over here. I have they're probably like 12 by 10 They're blank jigsaw puzzles.
Oh yeah.
I
That's so
I
cool.
made pictures of both of the kids for Heather for
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Mother's Day or something a year or two ago, and but it came when I bought them. It came in like a pack of 10, so I have more of them. I'm trying to figure out what to do with them. Fucking jigsaw puzzle.
Perfect. Yeah.
I just have to figure out what game to do with it.
But it's a lot of fun. It really helps your players sort of get into the main. And again, I think with that same fairy one I had, everybody had pumpkins on their with dice in them. I bought everybody. This is back when we used to give away gifts for showing up to your games.
Right.
I bought them like red and black Halloween themed dice that were in the little pumpkins
that's cool.
that they got as a prize for showing up to the game.
Right.
And again, it's a small thing, but people dig it, and all the players. It's also kind of a little break. You get like another little mini game in the midst of your big game. You're like, oh great, I get to assemble a puzzle.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think because she's asking like what stands out as really like transforming a game, and I keep going back to it every time. And it's that fucking newspaper in the vampire.
Yeah.
Because it literally changed the course of the game.
Absolutely, it did.
It was
Absolutely.
completely unintentional.
Well, the backstory behind that is because you learned when you put an article in the newspaper, somebody's going to seize on it.
Ad.
And,
It was
but
an
you,
ad.
but yeah, well, when we went,
She's too old to own a bar.
Our ageist like views or
It's
what
like,
spiraled into
How
this
does that logic?
yeah, super powerful mage.
Tim like latched onto that and would not let go. And I remember rolling my eyes at it like, this is what Stu does. He just puts in fluffer to fill out because we went and shot the bear all those years ago over
another
the
one.
exact same situation. It
A
was
whole
like,
adventure I never even intended.
and so you learn. I think you even
I had
said,
Nazis and dirigibles planned and all
Yeah.
kinds of shit.
and we went go look for the
And you
mutated
went to
bear in the
go
woods.
shoot a bear.
Yep.
Yep. You're still mad at us.
No, not bad.
I think mine. I love props and I love making them. I haven't actually done it so much lately.
You know, I was thinking about because of the pandemic when all the gaming went online.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you
Yeah.
have jobs now.
Yeah. Well, I
Unless you
think
mail
also,
it to someone, I
Yeah.
guess.
I think even before pandemic, though, I kind of drifted off from doing it because most of the time I do it for con games, for one shots. And then when I was, I think, like running my game, like I was so nervous to get feedback and stuff on the games I was designing, it like became a secondary thing. I think though forever, like the cool, like I did so many props, but I think the one that was really super transformative when I did the laser ponies.
That's the one I was going to
Yeah.
mention. If you didn't bring it up, I was going to.
Yeah, so I did this Laser Ponies game that it's like this happy little like kids like system, which I love. If you have kids, check out Laser Ponies. It's like $1. It's super cute. The guy's kids actually did all the artwork in it. His like daughters, it's
Right.
all like little ponies and like with
We're
lasers.
probably all in college now.
Yeah, they are.
Right.
But they have like little lasers coming out of their eyes. And I, of course, I ran a Dirty Adults game. So it was like the A-Team, like evil ponies. Like one of them's like a sharpshooter. One of them has like a cigar sticking out of its mouth. And I actually I bought all these little dollar store ponies and like repainted them and gave them all cutie marks. Those are the little pictures on the butt of My Little Ponies for those of you who aren't
There's
into My Little
usually
Pony
3.
culture. There's usually 3 cutie marks.
Well, usually it's whatever the thing is, and there's like usually
There's little
a
extra.
pattern,
Yeah, there are things around. Yes. It's
Allie
like a
was the
moon
right
and a
age.
couple
I used to watch
stars.
the show.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she knows the new My Little Ponies, which are quality. Like
There's even newer ones now, and
I
she's
know.
complaining about them.
I know. See, she knows how I feel now with her generation.
Yeah,
long
hers
as
was
Dr.
the
Who's-
friendship is magic ones.
Yeah, those are hers.
As long as Dr. Hoobs is in both of them, I'm okay with it.
Doctor.
But like, I think that it totally transformed the game because it was sort of like this weird, kind of funny, off-the-wall concept in this very rules-light system.
Right.
Very rules-light system. And I had this whole group of adults at the table, and just like having little ponies made it work. Like they literally were like walking their little ponies around the table to talk to each other, and like they like at one
Oh, it was
point
great. It was great.
amazing. And at one point, like the part of the plan was like to disguise the ponies, so they like started wrapping up paper because like one of them was going to have an afro, so they like wrapped up paper to make an afro on the pony and like walked the pony, and like none of it was necessary. Like there wasn't any map on the table or any of that stuff, but they got super into it. It was amazing, and I'm still very proud of like the artwork on those ponies. Like it
You
it
were
was
up
great.
all night painting ponies.
I was like really
crazy.
stressed out they weren't going to dry.
I know.
They were like still a little tacky but for the game, but They had and actually, like when I run into those people, most of them still have their ponies sitting somewhere.
I would.
Like
if
every
I were
once in a
it.
while,
I
they're
remember
like,
walking by going,
"Here's my
I want a pony.
I know.
I want a Kimmy original.
I know, it was pretty fun. I have pictures of them somewhere on the internet, and I'll post them somewhere. I'll tweet them out later, but it was fun.
You also did one with the dragons.
Yes.
And you made like a full-on book for each one of them, like
yeah.
a book cover.
I don't know if I'd consider that a prop though. Like I went through and like did artwork for each one of their.
Oh, you had the Harry Potter one. Where you have the little spell books for each Harry Potter?
Yeah, the Harry Potter one I made spell books because I twisted Wild Talents.
Oh, okay.
To work as like Harry Potter with the spell system, so I had to. There's not spells in Wild Talents, at least there weren't at the time. So I made a whole little way to do magic with the Wild Talent system, and so I made little books of every Harry Potter spell and like what you had to roll to use that spell, and then I made wands for them all too. So that was very fun. So
Totally cool.
it was very cool, and
Totally
that was a great prop too, because like suddenly they're able to use the words from like they can use any of the spells they saw in the movies or read of the books. I think this might have been pre-movies, or I think just a couple of the movies had come out.
Well, the movies started coming out before the series was long before the series.
Yeah,
was
so
done.
I
think
no,
Goblet
for sure.
of Fire came out when the first movie came out. And it's like real.
Yeah,
It was like real.
yeah.
early.
So there must have been some of the movies out, but yeah, and then that was another one where it's like people would look in their spell book, say the spell, and like wave their wand at each other, which is super fun. So
I love props, and again with the con games. I mean, I remember going to AAA and getting like a map of downtown Boston.
Yeah.
That I was going to use and put the little red marks where the crime scene had happened and gave it to them. And the last game I ran there was a scroll that they got for their quest, and it was I went and found a scroll tube and put the scroll in there and dropped it down, and that was the beginning of the game.
You know what I'd love to be able to do is to have like a giant cork board and give them a big skein of yarn and a bunch of photos.
And they can make
and
their
documents and shit and crime scene
What do they
photos.
call that? What do they call that? There's a name for that board.
I don't know. I have no idea.
conspiracy board. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's
The
like
crazy ass conspiracy board.
Yeah.
Anyway, clearly we are fans of props.
Yeah.
And Kimmy shamed us all, so none of us can do props anymore, because who makes wands except Kimmy? Which is awesome.
It was very cool.
Truly awesome.
Now I have a toddler. I don't know if I have time to do that anymore. We'll see once the cons come back. We'll see.
Yeah.
Get a bunch of makers in a room, playing a game, stuff happens.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, and we'll be thanking you 9 more times.
Yes.
Well, there is another offshoot to this, which is maybe how I interpreted it when we were doing this. Was it's like I remember recently I was playing a game with Chris, and he had a timer, one of the little sand timer things that he dropped down on the table. And although it was part of the vampire gave us, you have this amount of time to deal with it, and he says he brings it around with him everywhere he goes, because you never know when you're going to have a time limit on your thing. And okay, so that's an example of a prop that the GM sort of brought, but it was there, and we're all staring at it, and it really, really kind of added a lot to the game.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Now I don't know. Like now, is that a tool or is that an actual prop?
Well, she brings up the 10 candles.
The candles
Is
and
that a
10
tool
candles. That's
or
a
a prop.
I think that there's a fine line there. I mean, but the candles also serve like a thematic purpose.
Yeah.
Like they set the mood, the fact that there's like the darkness and the light.
I think the same way a timer would, especially if you're in a situation where you're like not sure what you're going to do, and all of a sudden the GM's like,
Well, and the vampire himself said you have this amount of time, and he turned the
Okay,
thing
then
over.
that's definitely a problem. Like would you feel the same way if they pulled out like one of those like kitchen timers, like an egg timer? Is that then a prop?
I
if
might.
it was the 1950s, yes.
If there's a bomb in the room, hidden in the building, you need to find it.
Okay.
Yeah, having that.
I would totally. That would
Okay.
be so into that.
I can see that.
But it's another example
Put a
of how to
mic
put
it.
props into
Yeah.
a
So it's
game.
nice and loud.
Yeah. Ticking like that makes me nervous anyway.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
But if you tell me that there's a bomb and when this thing dings, it'll go off, I'll have a heart attack.
When
trying
I
to
was
find
in
it.
like,
Yeah.
I think it was like right after I graduated from college. It's right when I moved out. I found in a drawer or in a box an actual wind-up alarm clock.
One of those
with the
old school
two
bells
on it.
like all from the Looney Tunes cartoons.
That shit lasted maybe an hour. And I'm like, fuck, because I set the thing and I'm like, go to bed. Fuck this.
Yeah,
I took the thing. I think it had to stop. It had like a little thing on there you could stop it. I don't remember. I don't know what I
Yeah.
did.
It was like a
but I
little-
made it. I may have just thrown it away. But
Now
I'm
you
like,
know why it was
fuck
in a
this.
drawer for 40 years.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. It still worked too. I don't know.
Sure.
But I have no idea if it kept good time.
Probably. They're pretty simple.
Yeah. All right, thank you again, Ruth.
Yeah.
And note taking from Bill in Colorado. Very short email.
Okay. Ready to go?
Yep.
I'm not on the page. We were unprepared. I'm sorry. All right.
I was on the wrong page. Oh, man.
All the emails.
Note taking from Bill in Colorado. Recording the session is great for taking notes. We play on Zoom and I record the sessions. I listen to it again at 2 times speed and do a session write-up. That way you don't miss anything and you can pay more attention in the game. Bill Crook from Colorado.
I do this when if there's been a gap and I don't remember exactly what happened last time, because I always drop little things that I like try to remember. I did this thing and I did it for a reason, but I didn't write it down.
Because you say to yourself the same thing, the same voice I have in mind, oh, I'll remember. I don't need to write that down. And then 2 weeks go by and you're like...
Or a month, and then it's like, uh-oh.
What are the name of the players again?
What system?
But I'm not going to listen to a 3-hour MP3 of anything.
Especially with your voice on it, yeah. You're
Right, it's like, blah, blah, blah. Shut that fucker up. But I will listen to it at least 2 times speed.
Yeah.
And then when I start to hear something, it's like, oh, wait, that was important. And I'll slow it down. I'm like, oh, yeah. Well, now, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Most of the time, just hearing it and hearing the context around it, I'll go, okay, now I remember what I was doing. It's incredibly valuable, especially when there's a big gap in time.
Yeah.
I don't think I would ever do it if there wasn't a gap in time. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
Well, we're lucky in that we default to, because we're recording it for the internets. But even at home, you just have your phone on and record your game sessions.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you have someone who writes better notes than the game itself, like Sam.
Or
Right.
Pooja.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pooja writes a good note, too.
She's so good.
Sam's always so interactive with like little
I know
characters.
pictures, and
I
it's
know,
her beautiful little handwriting.
I
Although
know.
Pooja has amazing handwriting, too. It's
Yes.
ridiculous.
But yes.
See, that pisses me off that their handwriting is so good. It really does. It's irritating.
Oh, mine's
isn't it?
awful.
Well, they're artists.
I can't read. Oh, that would explain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't read my own writing most of the time.
Yeah,
I
no-
should show you
I
my
went
fucking
to
notebook.
art school and my handwriting is shit.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Like Samantha literally draws stuff for a living, and Pooja does prop stuff. So she literally has to do like writing and stuff for props that are on TV and things
Right.
to make it look good. And
We're also both left-handed. That has something to do with it
there's that.
too.
Yeah. I don't know. I've done some informal studies on it. My mother's handwriting was terrible. You could barely read it. Her mother's handwriting was terrible. You could barely read it. My father's was the better handwriting, but his still wasn't great.
My dad's handwriting was messy. My
Yeah.
mother's was very good. My youngest sister and I, we're the 2 youngest siblings. Our handwriting is illegible, and she's not left-handed. My oldest sister's handwriting is about as neat as my mother's was, which was like almost like the cursive primer book. It almost looked that good.
yeah.
It's funny we're talking about this on the news this morning. The Taylor Swift wrote a thank you note to Don McLean because she now has like the longest pop song in history. For the longest time, "Die by American Pie," that one
Right.
was the longest note. Anyway, they showed a picture of the note. And the newscaster was like, "What glorious handwriting she has! I'm so envious."
Whose was it?
It was
Taylor
Taylor
Swift.
Swift.
Oh,
Like, of course, she's tall and beautiful and writes a million songs and is taking on the record company. And of course, she has great handwriting. Why wouldn't she? Amongst the many other great things she's
you know,
great at.
we learned cursive. I think in 5th grade is when we learned it. I think
It's usually 4th grade. Because I
It
still.
wasn't well,
actually.
they may have started it in 4th grade. That was Mr. Perlyberg. He threw shit at us in class.
Oh, okay.
Actual shit.
No, like
It's illegal now.
Tonka truck wheels.
Yeah, that's not allowed.
Yeah, he would start with a beanbag. Mm-hmm. If you threw something, it's when he caught you talking to someone. Mm-hmm. When he wanted you to pay attention, he'd start with a beanbag, and he had good aim. I got clipped twice, and I got the beanbag and I got the Tonka truck wheel. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing, he had this giant rock, and he said, "If I have to throw something at you a third time, it's going to be this." No one never graduated to the rock. He obviously wasn't going to ever throw it at anyone. But in 5th grade, Mrs. Dank, we had this weird thing where they start moving back and forth between classes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the teachers were like paired up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And our teacher was Miss Lilia, and the other teacher that we would go have some subject with was Mrs. Dank. And Mrs. Dank literally had handwriting that was indistinguishable from the book.
Yeah.
It was freaking textbook handwriting.
Yeah.
Some people
And she was left-handed.
Some people have that gift. That's all I'm saying.
Well, no, it also, like, It's something that was very ingrained into, especially lots of women.
Mm-hmm.
Like my grandmother's writing is like the book. My mother's is almost that good. Mine is better when I'm writing on the board than it is when I'm writing notes, just because I practice more. But yeah, so it's just one of those things that like was very like, I don't know, a feminine thing that they really focused on for women. I remember I got tons of shit about my handwriting in 4th grade.
That's probably left over from the 50s and
Oh,
60s.
100%,
Like,
yeah.
oh, you need to. Oh, honey, if you're going to get a job, you're going to have to be able to take dictation.
You're going to be a secretary.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't explain my grandmother's and my mother's chicken
No,
scratch.
no.
My grandmother's writing is so bad that there are times, like back when my mother was alive, we would get together on the recipe book and go, "What does that say? Is that teaspoon or tablespoon?" And we'd like, "Okay, well, it's this many people eating. It's got to be a teaspoon." I mean, it was just awful. So
I read a letter. I possessed this letter. It was written to my great-grandmother. No. Yeah, my great-grandmother from her adopted sister. And I only got one page of it because it was a 2-page letter. You can tell it was obviously a 2-page letter. I only have one page of it. And it's amazing. And this letter is from like 1890, 1880 or something. You can still read it.
Yeah.
It's so perfectly
and
legible.
there's no scratching out. It's all like they were just taking dictation. Yeah.
And she wrote it in verse.
I remember seeing.
What?
She wrote
Yeah.
the whole thing rhymes.
Wow.
It's all written in couplets. It's all two rhyming lines. The whole thing. And there's now who knows? Maybe she wrote the thing out, scribble,
Yeah,
and then rewrote it.
Rewrote
Oh,
it.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's back when people took time and communicating was an art.
But I don't even know who the letter's from. All I know is she mentions the fact that they're sisters, but Nora Stone, that my great grandmother, she was the only child, and both of her parents died by the time she was like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So she ended up being adopted by someone else. So this is whoever her adopted sister was. No idea who it was because there's no records on her adoption at all.
Next time we do a vampire game, you're going to have some old vampire
Yeah.
that writes an iambic pentameter.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's what they know.
Kit Marlowe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a vampire. He's a vampire.
Yeah.
He
It's all
faked his
iambic.
death.
Yeah.
Well, you're a vampire. You don't die. You actually have to pretend to die so that you can go away.
And
And
then
he
go
keeps
someplace
coming
else.
back as like a different, like famous artist every century.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like the Highlanders.
Yeah.
And, if you're going to be a vampire, working in theater would probably be the best
John
thing. 'Cause
Lennon.
It's all dark anyway. You're always in the dark. You're working at night. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Boy, we
Bill
got
from
off. We
Colorado.
got off on a tangent there.
Yeah.
Handwriting and props.
Good job recording Zoom. Good idea.
Yep.
Paid GMs from Joss in Orlando.
I guess I can read this. I actually did a little homework on this here too.
Okay.
Greetings, Happy Jack crew. A little while back, I wrote about my amazement about the existence of professional GMs. I had not realized they existed or how common they had become. The crew overwhelmingly looked at it from an angle that moved the perspective I was trying to make. Sorry about that.
We do that.
No, that's good. Like, he's saying that we changed his mind. He thought it was a
No, I think
It's almost like we do it on purpose. Don't have enough emails? Make them write in again.
it moved the perspective from the point he was trying to make. I'm
Oh,
not
I
sure if
see.
it was a good.
Right.
The cast made great points about people making money doing something they enjoy in our capitalistic economy. People got to hustle. Agreed.
Yeah.
But my perspective was just how weird this situation is. If a group of people pay a few $100s for a session of a game, can that game end in a TPK in 20 minutes? Or do the players have a I win button? Both seem disappointing options. Not that I want a TPK, but it can't happen then. It's like paying someone to fudge dice and
But
laugh
if
at
it
my dumb
can't
jokes.
happen.
Oh, but if it can't happen then, it's like paying someone to fudge dice and laugh at my dumb jokes. It's utterly bizarre for me
right.
to wrap my brain around. As I now find myself looking for a new online group, I find these pay for friends options clutter the field and are disheartening. R.I.P. Happy Jack's Forum, where I met my last group of fantastic friends from all around the world. And yes, there is a Discord, but it's for younger people who can absorb the uncategorized stream of consciousness. For me, it's like watching the green code of the Matrix blow up my screen. Also, the Matrix is 22 years old now,
Fuck
so
off.
many younger people won't know what I'm talking about. Fuck! Love the show, Josh in Orlando. Oh, it's Malfer.
Yeah.
Malfer, you've been around a long, long time. Thank you for your support.
Yes.
So, what if you let me frame this as a hypothetical question? You get paid to GM for a bunch of strangers.
Mm-hmm.
How how are you going to tailor that game for them as far as the experience that they're going to get?
Well, I have a little bit of experience watching this happen. There's a person she's a vocal coach called the Charismatic Voice, but she also is a nerd and has a game on Twitch, Battle Bards, and they all live in various places around the country, and they got together, and the Charismatic Voice streams once a month, and they have paid for a GM to run the show. And I watched their first episode, and they had a little bit of a preamble where they talked about how they found this guy. I actually went and downloaded it. He's got a website. It's dmpro.com or whatever, or dmpro.net. I'll look it up.
We don't know him.
It's not an affiliate.
Yeah.
I don't know it. But my point is, he's actually set up a whole website that he's able to do this with. And he does a little interview first. He does like a session 0 where he talks to the people. He figures out what they want, what level, what they like, what they don't like. I think he even does character gen like for free at first. So there's sort of a meet and greet, and he takes notes, and then he goes away and crafts or tailors some adventure that he already has for them. So in a way, it's not like pay me your money, kill you in 20 minutes, and gone. There's some time invested, and they know where to find you if you TPK the party, and I'm sure that there's like a discussion about that, like. You could die. Is that a thing? Is that you guys going to be okay with that if things go sideways? Now they're playing D&D, so it's kind of hard.
It's not super easy to kill characters.
Exactly.
In D&D. I mean, you could. It's super easy to kill characters if you really want to kill characters in anything.
Yeah.
But in normal, ordinary, run-of-the-mill, balanced combats.
But my point
is
very
that rare.
There's a definite sort of social contract, I think, and it might be even a legal contract. They didn't go that far before they even started the game about what to expect or what to go on. And he also crafts the game around their wants and needs. So I think it's not quite as cutthroat and pessimistic as one would think. Now, I'm a pessimistic person. I've gotten to the point now where every commercial I see. Yeah, I'm shocked. I know.
Sorry.
Every commercial I see, I just figure they're ultras trying to bilk me out of something. It's not going to work.
You're right.
Everything's wrong.
There's a
Everything's
commercial
bad. All of them. Even legitimate people that probably want to come out and work on my house.
United
for a
Ways
great
commercials. Fuck them.
Fuck that. Yeah. Right. Starving kids in Africa. That's not real. It's gotten that point. We've just gotten so overwhelmed and so distrusting. So. I'm with you. Like, what's to stop somebody from saying, "Yeah, I'll pay me $300," and then they don't show up,
that
or
guy
they show up and kill you.
Well, that guy, see, the guy that does that is never going to get any more work.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Because I mean, most of anytime you start a business, especially early on, a lot of it is word of mouth in almost any business.
And especially something like this, which is ostensibly a social environment where you are with groups of people. So if you kill off a group of people, word's going to get around.
It's like if you're rich and you're like, I want to throw a party, but I don't want to have to deal with it, so I'm going to hire a party planner. Because that exists.
Yeah, that's
you
a
hire
great
a party
example.
planner and they do a half-ass shitty job.
Yep.
You're never gonna recommend them to any of your other rich friends who want to have parties but not actually do any work.
Right. But if there's a TPK, have they done a shitty job on your party now?
I would say yes. I would. I think
if you're doing D&D, absolutely. That means they didn't balance the combat correctly.
Right.
Like, I would say that's a legitimate grievance.
And
I mean, unless you're playing with Stork and he goes down one hallway and then I'm just kidding.
That's well, you can't. You got to account for that.
I know.
Yeah, or just your dice failing like we had your last game.
Oh my God! I
Yes.
know.
Fail after fail after fail. It was epic.
But I think that if you hand the players a TPK, they're going to get pissed off, and I think that's legitimate.
Yeah.
And even if it is a legitimate TPK where it's not like the GM is like, well, I don't really want to do this for 4 hours, but I want to get paid for 4 hours. I'm going to. If you do that, you're not going to do it for very long.
No.
Right? You've got to give the players a fun game.
Yeah.
You got to give them a good time, especially if they're paying for it.
Yeah.
It's something like being a stand-up comedian. You go up and just like tell a monologue that doesn't have any jokes in it. For
Feeling
20
attacked.
Well, and I think like you said, like, I mean, I have some friends who are professional GMs now. I've never done it, but like a lot of times they have agreements. Like, okay, what happens if there's a TPK? Like,
Right.
so they are like, okay, like we'll start rolling up new characters. Like, there's always like they talk about that ahead of time, so the players know what to expect. Because yes, it's a possibility in any game. And some games, if you're playing like GURPS or something like that, like it's a very real possibility.
Oh, I would. If I was a professional GM, like paying, I would never run GURPS. If I did, I would tell them right away. I would nerf the system in some way.
Well, no, because
you can kill them accidentally.
Right. But that's also part of the gaming experience. So when you start at the beginning, you're like, hey, this is a system where if they're like, hey, we want to play GURPS, cool, okay, this is a system where you might die. Let's have characters rolled up ahead of time.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Everyone would have at least one backup character.
Right. So you have that set up ahead of time. For a stream, they may not. I don't know if they've talked about that. I have no idea. But like that's what a lot of them do, where they have like a plan. Like, okay, if your character dies, especially because at some point in most campaigns, there's a character who will probably get very hurt or die.
Sure.
So even if you don't have a TPK, you need to have a plan for that player who's also paying, who's also part of the fun, who's going to have a character die at some point.
Right.
So having a backup character set up, okay, this is what we're going to do. I mean, for D&D, there's like a million things you can like revive them and all that stuff too. So there's lots of options as long as it's not a TPK. But just having all those agreements up front, just like you would for a normal gaming group.
Right.
Like, hey, this is what's going to happen. And depending on the group, some groups might be like, no, none of us should die. I have a feeling that that's not very many groups to them. Maybe if it's like a new group who's never played before. But I have never sat down with a group who's like, no, nobody can die. Like if you want to play a game, even if you're playing a GM or a DM.
Well, there are games where characters don't. There's
Right.
systems where characters don't die.
Absolutely, I've designed them. But like that's part of like the gaming experience for a lot of systems.
Yes.
So that's like part of the agreement. So you sit down, hey, this is the game we're going to play. Dying's a possibility. You might get hurt.
And I mean, you got to balance the risks and the reward. And if the
Right.
risks aren't real, or at least perceived as real,
Right.
the rewards don't seem to mean as much.
Yeah, so I 100%, I mean, at least as far as my friends who do it, like, if you're constantly nerfing things and you're, like, messing with your rolls so that there's not any danger, so that there's not death that's going to happen, like, you're also not going to get work for very long either, because
Right.
people figure that out. So you've got to...
It depends how good you are.
True.
I mean, you can... There have been times where players have been in combats where they think it's, like, super fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
And when they actually beat it, and I know they're going to beat it.
Yeah.
I just by the game mechanics, it's like, yeah, someone might get hurt, but they're gonna kill this thing.
Yeah.
And they're like relieved.
Yeah.
The whole party's like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
And then it's like the first fight you guys had in my GURPS game was against zombies that didn't activate until you fucked with them. And there were 4 zombies, and there were 4 players. And you guys barely survived. And those zombies, you didn't have. And I made it pretty reasonably clear that they were inert, and then until you went over and like pushed on them or poked them or whatever you did,
Yep.
And
and then all of a sudden it gets up.
Yeah.
But the other ones stay, and it's like
So you're only fighting one zombie.
you could
at a time.
only you weren't. You were fighting, I think, 2 and then 1 and 1. I don't remember exactly how
You
it
were fighting
happened.
3, and then
Oh, it might have
and
been
then I
3
went
and
and poked the last one at the end.
Right after the 3 were down. But I mean, I thought that would have been a really easy, very simple combat encounter, and I was wrong.
Well, again, the dice rolls weren't working. I do believe that somebody
You got-
got shot through the mouth.
2 critical failures, and when Chris's character tried to heal him, she
Right.
got a critical failure
Yep.
there too.
So sometimes, and like it's GURPS. Like, I'm gonna go through puberty right here, GURPS.
Yeah, I know, it's great.
It's great. I have like a character that has 12 points, and you had us roll to go down, dangerous stairs. I took 5 points of damage, almost half my hit points, falling downstairs.
It's very dangerous to fall downstairs.
It's GURPS.
Remember how you used to
Falling-
say that falling downstairs was your litmus test on how
It is.
how realistic a
It's-
system is?
That's where I was going with this. It still holds water.
Yeah.
I
There you
contend
go.
that it still holds water. It is a great litmus test on it. You can die in GURPS falling downstairs.
Yeah.
You can die in real life falling downstairs.
That's how simulationist it is.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
like again, like I mean, depending on the GM or DM you get, like it is 100% right now mostly word of mouth. Like there are people who put up websites and stuff, but very few for hire GMs and DMs are actually getting work that way. It's almost all, hey, I saw you on this thing streaming, or I have friends who played in a game or have seen good reviews about you.
And you gotta balance out, because you want them to have a good time, you want them to have fun, but you also want them to have to like work and think that they've achieved something to get that, to have that fun. But I mean, it's a
It's the
real
same
balancing act.
Yeah, but it's the same thing you do with normal gaming groups.
No, but when you have a regular gaming group, you always have those sessions. Not always, but every so often you'll have this session where it's just like frustration. all around. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Usually because of dice. Can you imagine if you paid some guy $500 to come and GM for you for one night for 3 or 4 hours, and you had one of those sessions where like no one can make a roll to save their life?
Right, but
And
that's
you're
also part of the experience.
Right, but
now you're out $500.
you have $500
not just a case.
and you had a frustrating game.
Yeah, not just a case of beer and some chips. You're actually out money.
Right.
See, I don't know. Like, I feel like that. Like, we do streaming games. Like, and we've got games where we are like that, and people are like dedicating their time to listen to us play.
That's true.
So, I mean, like, we're not getting paid.
We also, I mean,
But-
Clearly.
we also are rather a rather lighthearted group when it comes to game mechanics.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if someone fucks up, it's like, ooh, what interesting thing is going to happen now?
Yeah.
How am I going to fuck up my life by accidentally rolling a critical failure?
Yeah, and I would also say like bad rolls. That's not the GM's fault. Like that's not anything that person can control. That's
No,
part of the gaming
But
experience.
I have certainly had players get like mad and frustrated because they can't make rolls.
Right,
That is not an uncommon thing to have happen.
Right.
And if you got 2 or 3 of those guys at a table, and
100%.
I can see how I can see how this could go bad.
I've had other players get mad at me for bad rolls.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I did my time as like a babysitter, like getting paid to like make children happy. That like it doesn't seem that different to
Right.
me. It's like
Well, yeah.
it's like if one kid's like, we hate that lady, we don't like her, mom. Like you're out your job. Like
Right.
That's actually a really good analogy,
Yeah,
right? It's
so-
like if you're a crappy babysitter that abuses the children, they're not going to call you back, and you're not going to get any more work.
Or I've had like the ones who were like, can we have cookies? No, we're gonna tell our mom we don't like you if you don't. And I'm like, cool. I'm gonna tell her about this conversation, and let's see who she believes. And they're like,
Oh, you're smarter than our other babysitter.
yeah. So I mean, I feel like it's like that may also just be not a good match. Like if you're paying someone as a GM and you're being a pissy brat and you blame it on them, they might be relieved that you don't hire them again. Honestly,
Right. But I mean, I wonder. Again, it's like. Remember when we used to talk a bunch of smack about organized play? Mm-hmm. We're like, well, a lot of the people who play organized play probably are playing organized play because no one will let them in their group anymore. Because every so often you get a lot of you don't get a lot, but those kinds of people end up there because they've been kicked out of every group they've ever been in. Mm-hmm. So if you got someone you're hiring as a GM, you might have some of those players there because no one will GM for them.
it's possible. Yeah, absolutely. Like that's a total thing.
You know, the closest analogy I have that sort of justifies it in my brain is like it's not much different than a con game, where you are.
I think they're all very similar. Yeah.
Because you're very aware that you have a bunch of strangers that you're trying to impress. You want to make sure they have a good time.
And they did pay to get there.
They did pay to get in there.
Yeah.
You didn't get the money, but
Right, but they're still out cash.
yeah. Wait, I paid to be here so that you could pay to be here. What? Okay.
And so there's an obligation, at least whenever I'm running at a con game, to make sure that my
Well, there
players have a
should
good
be an
time.
obligation.
I
Everyone
agree.
running
It's a show.
convention
We're
games.
putting on a performance. We're putting
Right.
on a show, and we're throwing a party, and you want to make sure everybody has a good time. Have I fudged rolls? Not recently, but I think in maybe the first game we did, I think I rolled like a total 8. I think it was Traveler, and I rolled like 3 6s or something. And I'm going to re-roll these or something because it would not have been conducive to anybody for that at that point. And it wasn't that critical of a roll. It was something like, again, this is before I learned to give them the information. Everybody has to roll to make sure that you can hack into the computer, and it was like, here, you know what, you need this to move on with the story. The point is, it's like a con game basically, and I'm assuming that a pay for GM also has some adventures sort of skeletonized in his head that he can then just pull off the shelf, cobble together.
I would
and
imagine
run.
It's probably someone who's been GMing for a really long time, probably in one system, D&D, knows it like the back of their hand, has run multiple adventures multiple times, and knows which adventures players like and which ones they don't. And they probably just use the ones that they know are winners.
And I guarantee, my daughter started a GM now, and she's run the same game for 2 different groups, and they're completely different games.
Right.
She validated to me, and I'm
See,
like, yep, that happens.
That would bore the tears out of me. To like run the same. I don't think I've ever done it. No, I did it as an experiment at one of the cons, and it was reasonably entertaining. But I would if I ran the same adventure over and over again for someone.
At the con games, I've run. I think Dave and I ran a couple of them the same game 3 times, just with different groups of people, and they were different every time.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. It would bore me. Not as a player, but as the GM.
As a GM. Yeah, maybe.
I like your party. Bring it back to the email. I like your party planner analogy. That's a really great example where you basically hire somebody to do all of the work for you, so you can have a party, so you can have a good time.
Right.
Right. And it's a very similar contract, right? And I don't know if, and maybe at some point, when you hire a GM, there might be some actual legal boilerplate that
I'm sure
I'm
there
not
is.
responsible if your characters roll badly. I'm not, if there's a TPK, it's not my fault or whatever it is that everybody signs so that they know.
Yeah.
A GM, if he's rolling behind a screen, can make sure there's never a TPK.
This is true.
Right. But
Come on.
again, I don't know. I think different groups would want different things.
I-
That's what you have to talk about.
and
You
I-
just have
I
to
would-
make sure you're all on the same page.
I would be curious to know if these GMs do roll in front of them or if they roll behind a screen.
Well,
It
the
depends. I'm sure there's as many as they do all
the
different
successful
things.
ones. I'm talking about the ones that are successful.
depends on the groups.
I'll bet you there's a formula to it.
Maybe.
Well, the one I was showing, they were using an automatic dice roller, I think, and they also had a miniature mover that one of the people in the group had developed that they were moving around, which was really cool. It's 3D minis that move around. So, and then but it was all zooming. So the GM was, it was a little box, and everybody else was playing down below. And I think that makes sense. That as a GM for hire, if you've got a bunch of people in different parts of LA, even where it's a 3-hour drive sometimes, depending on where you live, it's easier to just do it all online at home, even if you are all within the relative area. But that's rarer and rarer. More and more people are just geographically separated now.
Yeah. Well, you also have to realize when you're watching streams, we are one of the only streams where we're all friends and we're just doing it for fun. We do our Patreon, which pays for some of the improvements in the studio and stuff. Right. But 95%, maybe not 95, but most of the streams you watch now that are gaming, they're getting paid. Everybody there is getting paid.
Yeah, some of them a lot.
Yeah, some of them a lot. So it's the GM, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
No.
But I'm saying we all are much more used to watching paid GMs and paid DMs than we realize. Because even though they're groups of friends, they're getting paid for their showtime, they're getting paid for the prep, which they absolutely should be. So it's it seems like this weird off-the-wall concept, but a ton of them are getting paid. Matt Mercer getting paid to DM.
Well, he's the top of
right. But I'm saying
and there's an order of magnitude gap between him and whoever's number 2.
No, I realize that. But I'm saying, they're getting paid. People
Right.
on Saving Throw Show are getting paid.
Right.
People on, every single show that you watch, they're all getting paid. They're getting paid to prep the games. They're getting paid to play their games. So, being paid to game is something that is now incredibly common and is something that, while, kind of the old guard, it's oh, that seems so weird. It's okay, but lots of us, especially if you're watching this or listening to this, a lot of the podcasts you listen to, they're all being paid for their time and their effort. Right. So
That's a really astute point. I didn't even think about that. Really.
Not podcasts. The percentage of people who are paid for their podcasts won't even be 1%.
Right, but you have to think now how many of the streaming shows release as podcasts that are being listened to regularly.
Right.
Can you imagine all of
But
that?
that's still a tiny fraction. There's 800,000 podcasts or something, and the number of podcasts are insane.
Yeah, but when we look at
if you're talking about just tabletop RPG podcasts,
it's Critical Role.
Yeah, there's tons.
Okay, it's the
tons
Adventure
of people
Zone. It's
but you're talking about the people who are in the top 10. Get out of the top 10 or top 20 of that.
The ones that the majority of people listen to are paid.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true of anything.
Right. But
We're going to get a cease and desist from them sooner or later because they're wait, you guys do this for free?
Yeah, I know.
You guys are undercutting our bottom line.
Yeah.
The top
because you guys are doing it for
1% of
free?
anyone in anything is getting paid, if they want to be.
yes.
I mean,
What? You do that for fun? Nobody pays you? What's wrong with you people? Why would you do that?
Well, and I think that's absolutely fine. A
that's
lot
like
of
when
them.
people find out how much we get paid at fair. There's 80 of us in the band. So.
Yeah. That's amazing. You each get paid $40 a whole day? That's amazing. Oh, man. Yeah, I think that's why. It's
And it's been that way for 30 years.
30 years, I know. But anyway, so I'm just saying, paid GMs are something that we have more. At least a lot of us have a lot more touchstones with than we realize.
Yeah.
Is my point basically. It's much more common than we think. Like hiring a guy to come to your house, I think is still a little bit rare, but especially
it just seems weird. It just seems. The only thing I would think is if it's people who have a lot of disposable income, and decide just on a lark, I want to play D&D and I don't know anything about it. Yeah. That's someone who's going to go on the internet and try to find a professional GM to come to their house and run a game.
Well, and most of them aren't $100, like $500 a game. Like that's like I don't know. There is the one guy, he had like an article in a magazine that I read about. That's like a professional GM.
Oh, if I leave my house, it's $100 an hour. Period.
Right? No, I know, but
he's not like $100 a game kind of thing. It's not $100 an hour.
No.
$100 a game.
No, no, but
no
like
way. Never.
Okay, but also if you have like 4 or 5 people playing, like whatever your game, you never leave your house for anything.
Yes,
but,
I do. I work every day.
What you get paid for.
Yes, I do. Not $100 an hour. But.
No, but I'm saying like most of them get paid like $100 a game, something like that. If you get 4 or 5 people playing, that's $25 each. It's not like
that's not a lot of money. You know?
Yeah, it's not like bank breaking. Like when you're talking about like the $500 a game, like I don't think that's not most people. There's probably like maybe one professional GM out there making that, like for doing professional games. So it's also something that's a lot more affordable than we think.
I would 1 Bitcoin per session. That's what
I want. You don't even leave your house for like friend events. Like
yes, I do.
Rarely, like twice a year.
I don't have that many friends.
I know. I'm one of your few friends.
This is very true.
I'm the one who's like, hey, you want to do this? No.
I was just at a wrestling match.
For your son.
2 days in a row. Of course.
That's different.
You said I don't leave the house for anything. Okay. I do.
You do.
I do.
Yes.
And by the way, he's doing very well.
Dude, let's not let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Yeah.
Okay? You're a curmudgeon who doesn't leave the house is much more interesting than actual being a functional adult.
You built a studio, so we all had to come here. We know how it works.
I still contend the only reason you used to throw parties was to get all the free beer.
Yeah. Also, cryptocurrency sucks. So.
No, it doesn't. It's awesome.
No.
You might as well just pay it in WoW money. That actually has like legal.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, well, that's true.
What happened?
Blizzard Activision.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Nightmare.
I love cryptocurrency.
No, we don't want to talk about it anymore. It's terrible. All right.
It's awesome.
No, it's terrible for the environment. Don't do it.
It's
awful. Okay.
Everything's terrible for the environment. We're terrible for the environment.
I know. After a large dinner. Terrible for the environment.
You know, I still have my mask on because I was at the thing. I got my mask inside. And it's super handy when you go into like a restroom and the person that went in before you like totally destroyed the toilet. Oh. You open it up. No problem.
I'm so glad you went with that and not the missing toilet paper.
Okay. Let's just like.
Sorry, Kimmy, you try to class the place up, and you know, always depend on me.
It's fine.
It's
fine.
That's nasty.
Yeah.
That's
Kimmy's
nasty.
like, and you wonder why I don't like to be on the cast with you anymore.
I don't mind at all.
She said that to me.
No, I have not.
Oh, right.
We just have a kid, so we have to split up the weeks. It's easier if one of us is here every other week.
Listen, again, don't let the facts get in the way.
I don't want like disparaging, like the drama.
That's true.
Stork and Kimmy don't like each other.
We're actually pretty drama-free these days.
I know we are. Just none of us get to see each other outside the cast. That hasn't been fair for 2 years. Where's the drama going to come from?
Right. Or Comic-Con.
I can't wait for the next fair.
I know.
I bought 1,000-watt speakers.
Oh my God.
Rogues Reef.
Okay, that's exciting.
We've been using 100-watt speakers.
Yes.
But we're not going to be louder. The whole purpose of it is so that we're not using. It has a lot more headroom, so the sound will be cleaner.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hey, I wanted to, real quick before we go, talk to you. My game Starscape is now out for its beta playtesting. Mm-hmm. So you can download it for free on my itch.io page. If you go there, you'll also get updates when I update it. So you'll get like a little notification. So that's a great place to download it. You can download it for free. If you go to goldenlassogames.com/Starscape, there's a link there. You can just click the link. It says download. And yeah, so it's a powered by the apocalypse game in space. It's basically about trust and found family and emotions in space.
Excellent.
I watched your game the other day, the AP, by the way. I'm going to sing your praises. It's great. She's done so many neat things. Now, I haven't seen any of the artwork and stuff, but it sounds like you're just spending a lot of time on the layout and format and such. And I'm assuming Sam is doing some work too, so that'll
Actually,
be cool.
it hasn't been through any official layout. Like, it looks really nice, but it's very nice, like Google Doc layout. And there's artwork throughout it, but it's not the final artwork.
My favorite part of your game, and I didn't see it as you said that you made a chart on the back for Technobabble.
Yes.
So like you take one from column 1, column this. Well, the defibrillator float ad was clearly not fitting into the France net. And instead of fumbling over it, you can just through and pull it out.
Yes.
It's a small thing, but genius. It'll help just everybody with the game, and it'll be fun. And it's things like that, Kimmy, that are going to make you a great game designer.
Thank you.
That make you a great
Thank you. Yeah, I had a bunch of trouble with that when I first started doing it. And I love Star Trek, and I'm good at improvising, and I still would be like, the realign the foil coil thingy, and it was so bad. So I was like, okay, I'll make a chart. And then, because I'm a 4th grade teacher, I laid it out. So all you have to do is say a word, read the word on top, say another word, read the next word on top. Like, it lays it out, and it sounds like seamless and super cool and high tech.
So I'm sure this game is going to be full of wonderful things like
excited.
that. So yeah, I'm super excited to see it when you get it out and release it to the wild. But you're saying the beta is available?
The beta is available now. You can download it. It's everything you need. It's like 80-something pages. It looks really nice. I'm very proud of how it looks. And it's the first. It's version beta version 1.0.
What are the archetypes that you?
Oh my God, there's 10 of them. So my favorites are the civilian, which is kind of like the Svetlana Troy, like they're kind of like the diplomat, the talker.
So like Inara from...
Inara, which is a civilian, Quark is also a civilian because he's like because each playbook has a background you get to pick. So for the civilian, you get to be a diplomat, you get to be an entrepreneur, or you get to be a religious figure. So if you can also be like Corinne if you watched DS9. So that they're like a religious figure who like is super shady and like tries to get advantage for themselves and stuff. So
Who's
basically,
Corinne? I don't remember.
Corinne is her like is like the title.
Is it only in a few episodes?
No, she's the
recurring
big.
character?
She's the older religious woman who like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm smiling because Kimmy has done a ton of research.
So much research.
You said the funniest thing on your cast.
Oh yeah.
You said, I have been watching so much Star Trek that I'm really surprised that my daughter wasn't born speaking Klingon.
It's pretty funny. That's one of the things.
Wouldn't it be nice if Star Trek could settle down on what Klingons look like?
Right? I remember, yeah. But I actually was thinking about that lately. Like, we were going back through my phone because we have so many little videos of her when she was like a newborn and stuff. And like 80% of them have Star Trek sound in the background because I watched it like just constantly, especially those first few months where it's like you sit and you feed her and then you sit and you hold her and you sit and she goes to sleep for like 5 minutes and then you're holding her again and it's like there's like Worf in the background like talking through all her little baby. She's like,
he talks way down here.
Captain, and it's like, oh God, ruined it. Anyway, yeah.
But
thank
you
you,
didn't
James.
just watch Star Trek. You've watched everything.
Everything. Yeah, I even watched some Andromeda. Like
Andromeda's fantastic.
it's pretty good.
You should tell me. I have the whole series.
Oh, well, I bought it.
Amazon
But
Prime.
yeah, I watched Star Trek, all the Star Treks through Voyager. I haven't watched the newer ones yet, just because I wasn't going to pay for another streaming service.
That's good.
I rewatched all the Stargates and Stargate Atlantis.
Boy, these are long runs. These are like 6 years, 7 years worth of episodes.
Stargate ran a long time.
It did, yeah.
Real long time.
Yeah, and
Did you watch Stargate Universe?
No, I haven't watched that one yet.
Oh my God,
It's very
it's
good.
the best thing I've ever seen on television.
Rewatched Firefly. I rewatched Battlestar Galactica. I watched Farscape. And fell totally in love with it.
It's fantastic.
I love it so much. It's so good. Andromeda. I watched all of Babylon 5.
Which,
it was so good.
Until the last season when it turns to shit.
Oh, really? No, I thought it was
awful.
okay. Oh.
The Penn and Teller episode, hello, come on. The story was done. The story was, we get another season? Okay. Let's have Penn and Teller come in. We're big fans. Why not?
Okay, yeah, I might.
Because remember, the whole story arc is supposed to end with the big, you find, spoilers, angels and demons, and the big thing, and that all happens, and it's like the next season, it's like, hey, we're going to be wacky now, because we don't know what else to do.
Yeah. So James V, thank you so much. He helped me out. My playbooks are the civilian, the explorer, the explorer's like a scientist, but instead of just being in their lab, they want to go out and do something. Like they have a cause that they're looking for. They want to solve something. The gifted, which is kind of like the Deanna Troi, who like has special powers. There's the greenhorn, which is like the noob on the ship. The Ensign Kim, that sort of thing. They're trying to figure it out. The hotshot, which, I mean, come on, that's Kirk, that's Riker, that's
Han Solo.
Han Solo, exactly. So the normal, which is like the red shirt, who's like the no
You
name.
can play an extra who's going to die?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty much. I'm feeling attacked.
Yeah. And the idea is like you kind of break out of that, like you're the no-name background character, and you kind of end up you build up on that.
Galaxy Quest. It was Guy.
Yeah.
Or you start out as like, what's his name? O'Brien.
Yeah, exactly. O'Brien's one of the touchstones on that. And then you've got the outsider. That's someone who's kind of shady. You can't trust. They're a spy. So Garrick is a good one of
Harcourt
that.
Fenton Mudd, you've been drinking again.
Yes.
Some of the best television ever. That actor.
He's awesome.
When is California Dave? When is Kadave going to be going as Hardcore Fenton Mud? Because they have the jovial, the
or
build,
the other,
the
there's
voice.
there's really two Falstaff characters.
Yes,
in
the Tribble dealer.
that guy. He should do that guy.
Yeah.
Anyway. sorry.
And then we've got the rebel, who's like fighting for a cause that's like Mal, or that's like there's tons of rebels on Star Trek and a bunch of different ones. Sabine from Rebels actually is a great example of that. The Unfamiliar, that's the Data, that's the Seven of Nine,
Okay.
that's the the character who's different and doesn't quite have the same emotional reactions as everybody else, and is
what's
learning
his
how to
name
be
too?
human.
Probably.
Spock.
Remember when Next Generation got so boring they had to add a character with personal problems? What's his name? Come on.
I think there's like a lot of them.
I watched.
No, there's one character that they introduced.
Neelix.
No,
That's
Next
Voyager.
Generation.
Oh, sorry.
He stuttered. He had the porn addiction and the
that's Barkley.
Barkley. Yeah.
Oh, I remember
So-
Barkley.
You don't
Yeah.
remember Barkley? He's the one howling Mad Murdoch.
He's the normal for the playbooks. And then we've got.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would make him an.
Oh yeah,
I would
he's
think
a
he'd be the
background
outsider.
character who's not good, and like nobody likes him. He's not important, and then he slowly like becomes like very important, and then Voyager very very important.
Yeah.
And then the Unfamiliar, and then the Warrior is the last one.
Right.
Yeah. So
I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm
You've done a
excited.
ton of work in it, and I think it's going to be.
it's been
really
almost 2 years. I realized like it's been like 2 years of designing,
Well, there's a
and now
big
people get to
pandemic
see
where
it.
you had a lot of spare time to do stuff, but still, that's an enormous amount of work. And everybody says Powered by the Apocalypse is a great game; it's really adaptable and all that. Everybody I've known that's tried making one has spent 2 years laboring over the
takes
thing.
a lot of
It takes
time.
There's a lot of little moving parts that you got to make sure.
Oh, it's like
work.
Jason is like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He used to put it on an update. He says, "Okay, look."
And it's been like 10 years now.
No, it's not.
10 years.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think of a different Jason.
I haven't known him
Thinking
10
of another
years.
Jason.
Yeah,
he was
no,
also
no.
working with the Powered by the Apocalypse for the longest time and tinkering with it, just
Oh,
because
yeah.
because if one part doesn't. Anyway, my point is,
Mm-hmm.
they it's the bait and switch. Oh, come on, here's a great system. It'll be easy to work on. You're like, oh, I'm going to design a game, and then 5 years later, struggling and
It's
you're
super
like,
easy to
it's
design
done.
like a little homebrew game that you and your friends are going to play. If you're actually designing it for someone,
That's the problem.
yeah, playing something that strangers can pick up and like do.
And not just that, but be to write it to make it sure it's an accessible language
Yeah.
that anyone can understand it without you there to explain it to them.
and not,
That's the hard
and
part.
not break it. Like you can't design it for bad faith players, but you don't want to design a game that someone can sit down and try and make something amazing and then just be completely overpowered or like it doesn't work right.
Well, balance issues are a
That's why
problem.
they have errata.
Yeah.
And playtesting.
And playtesting.
Balance is a problem even in professional games.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
like there's lots of times when they're like, oops.
Yeah.
Well, that's why D&D's on its 5th editions.
No, that's just a money grab. So they
Soon
can
to
put out fluff
be
books.
5 point whatever.
Yeah.
Well, remember they came out with 3.0 and like within a couple years they're like, oh fuck, and they had to do basically reboot it.
I still have like an entire file cabinet full of those fluff books, though.
Mm-hmm.
You really only need the first 3 books, and then you've got the planes, you've got all the
yeah.
the demons,
They
you've got all
they
you've got all
don't
the
produce it.
little archetypes.
I'm actually kind of shocked how few books WotC has produced for 5th edition.
It costs a
D&D.
lot of money to make a book, and nobody reads them anymore.
I mean, there's tons.
They're not that a 5th
Physical
edition?
book, you mean?
No, there's not that many. No, because they use that online that online.
Buy them online though.
Your mic is muted.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you still buy them online though. You pay the full price.
No. I'm not talking. I'm talking about how many player handbooks are there for 5th edition D&D? 1.
Okay.
How many were there for 2nd edition or 4th edition D&D?
I have no idea.
2 or 3.
Oh.
How many DMGs were there for 4th edition compared to? There's 1 now. There were 2 in the previous. Monster manuals, Fiend Folio. Think of all the different monster manuals. You have 1 monster manual for.
Well, then they started adding all these different character archetypes too, from the Blade Dancer.
Well, they've added setting books that they've added additional stuff in.
Yeah.
But they're not doing it. They're not adding that sort of generic supplement that they added, like Fiend Folio.
Right.
Or, I mean, all of the various player handbooks that you had. Was it 2nd edition that had more than 1 player? I don't remember. There was another. I never played 2nd.
Yeah.
There was another version that had it.
James in the chat says, WotC actually said they are specifically making sure not to flood the environment like they did for 3.0, 3.5, and 4.0. So that's actually a marketing choice on their part, which I think is good. I mean, they're coming out with tons of like adventure and setting books, like you said. And I think they've
They're coming out with tons of them. The amount of stuff that they're producing is not very much. You go and look at the D&D section at Game Empire or whatever.
Well, yeah, but they might not be carrying all the setting books. Like, I feel like every 5 minutes there's another announcement of another D&D setting. Or
maybe online
adventure
only, but as far as printing actual books.
Yeah, they just like
you look at, they had row after row after row of books, and you look at them, and it's only like 8 titles.
Nobody buys books anymore. They're bad for the environment. Nobody knows how to read. It's all online. I think more and more people just don't have physical books. I mean, I know people that have gotten rid of all of their physical books and put them all in PDF.
Is WotC producing non-book PDF only?
Oh, I would.
That is theirs? That they're producing in-house?
I would bet so, yeah. I think it's probably subscription-based.
I think they come out with at least like 3 a year. I can name, there's 3 of them in the last few months. Like they've come out with at least
in the last few months.
Yeah, they came out with the Harry Potter knockoff one. I don't know, Candlekeep something.
Those are you're talking about the setting books.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, the setting books. They come out with a certain number because I feel like they've incorporated a lot of what you were saying into those instead, rather than making it like, oh, you have to buy all these books. If you buy this set, if you're going to run in this setting, here's all the stuff you need for this setting, like all in that.
Right.
Well, it's the answers are right here. It's like the last one was Dragon's Treasury, which I've seen ads for and some of the reviews about as well. And then, none of us play D&D that much, so I don't even really follow
Strixhaven, that's what it is, yeah.
And then,
a bunch of my friends write for them, though, so I get all the announcements, and then I'm like, hey, that's amazing, I'm so glad for you, I'm never going to play the thing.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean,
we should table this for another. This is a good conversation that we
is a
could
good
have for another time.
Yeah, well, it's all in their drive-through RPG sub thing, whatever it is. I don't remember what it's called.
I seem to remember there was a subscription-based model that they were doing for $40 maybe originally, that you would pay X amount of money and they would send you.
Well, they still have that.
The whole digital service.
They still have like for the character builder and all that shit. They still have that where you pay whatever a month to have access.
They've revamped it though, so it's only if you're the GM do you pay.
Really?
I'm playing in 2 different campaigns right now, and I don't pay anything as a player. I have a free account where I can build my characters, but the GM pays their subscription fee, and they've bought their books that then they are able to share with me that I have access to.
Oh, okay.
So, which is a much better design.
Right. How? I bet it's not cheap though. If only GMs are getting it now.
I don't know. But I think
especially if you pay your GM.
Well, I think they've realized that like they make up for it in the number of people playing D&D. Like I think it makes a lot more people play if they don't have to pay subscription fees.
And you're also not printing up a ton of books.
They've already created all that content for the books anyway.
Yeah.
And it's already in a digital format.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cheaper to just keep it there. Like I said, I mean, maybe they're printing up books on demand, but the physical printing up and storing of books costs a ton of money.
Oh, absolutely.
And shipping it to.
There's all kinds of costs.
So,
there's warehousing costs. There's all kinds of
I'm
costs.
sure they save a lot more money with a subscription-based thing and make more money because they're not having to babysit a bunch, pallets and pallets of waterlogged books.
Did you ever see that? What was it called? What's the? It's that multi-level marketing clothing thing.
Lululemon?
No, it's called Luluray. I think. Have you heard of this? It's a multi-level marketing thing. They started out making.
It's the Lululemon. It's like this.
It's not Lululemon. It's called Luluray. And it's these two people. It's a
Very
documentary.
similar, oh.
It's an documentary on Netflix, and they're two of the worst human beings I've ever seen in my life. It's Tiger King for multi-level marketing. That's what it is.
Do they still like leggings?
Yes. It's not Lululemon. It's
Okay.
LuLaRae. I'll look it up.
And they're
so
counting on the fact
I
that
can
people
tell-
think it's
Is that
Lululemon.
the name of the documentary? Because there's the Lululemon, I think is what it's called, like, are the leggings that people buy.
I'm sorry, LuLaRoe.
LuLaRoe.
I'm
Okay.
sure,
LuLaRoe.
I'm sure they're counting on
And
people
it's-
Googling Lululemon, but only getting as far as Lulu and going to LuLaRoe and then getting their leggings instead.
Except it's LuLaRoe.
No.
It's not Lulu. It's Lula.
I never bought them, so I don't know.
Oh no, you wouldn't. But they came up with these designs using like super fucking loud prints.
Yep.
Started out with leggings.
I
Then
have
they made
friends who sold
dresses.
them.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, 100%.
And then they made dresses. They had all kinds of clothes, and that they grew so because it's multi-level marketing is a massive scam, and because it's basically kind of like a pyramid scheme.
Yes.
And they grew so fast and needed to produce because you had to put down like an initial like $9,000
gotta pay to
inventory
play,
buy
yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
That's how all MLMs work. But
Or concert venues if you're in a band.
right, but they had so much product that I can't remember the size of their warehouse. It was like 100,000 square foot warehouse somewhere in the middle of nowhere in the like eastern United States somewhere, and they had so much inventory that they started storing shit outside.
In
a part of-
Nebraska.
not
It
in
got-
Southern
it
California
got
where it
snowed
rains
on.
3 days a year,
Yeah.
but in some other part of the country where it rains 60 days
Where
a
it's
year.
sunny 3 days a year.
Right. And these people are getting like they're like everything's all wrapped in plastic and they're picking this like why does this pair of leggings weigh 6 pounds? Oh. And it's soaked with water and you open the thing up and it's like mold everywhere. Oh yeah. It's amazing.
Wow.
It's the two they interview the two people, it's a husband and wife team that run this thing. And it's like watching Tiger King.
Yeah.
It's that caliber of people.
I've worked with people like that all day. I don't need to watch that for
Oh,
fun.
my God.
I'm
All right, we're way over.
Anyway, all
We
right.
are.
Thank you. And I will hit the thing.
That was what I get for steering off and doing a plug real quick.
I
Oh,
blame
I
myself.
am writing the fourth novel of the Mandite series.
Oh,
It's
you've
about
solved
half-
the problem. You fixed it.
Yeah.
You found the hook.
About halfway through. I was
Nice.
going to try to get it done for NaNoWriMo, but it's not going to happen.
Okay.
Because it's already December.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
And I wasn't even close. I mean, I think I wrote during November maybe like 8 days.
Oof, okay.
There we go. Thank you for joining us, season 29, episode 9.
Yep.
9 of Happy Sex Everything Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name's Kimmy.
I'm Stork.
And we'll see you next time at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time next Friday, right here, happyjacks.org/live. Have fun.
And we'll roll the dice on more questions.
Bye.
It's a hobby from Michigan to Australia and maybe East Timor. Be a trip so exalted, girls or dungeons and dragons, hero, pathfinder, fate or savage lands. Evil plots will be usurping, though we could do with less burping. Happy Jack's podcast will be douchebags all.
The preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.
Bum, 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 bum.